Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. I'm Kaylee Bateman, the Content Director at She Can Code. For anyone that's tuning in who isn't familiar with us, She Can Code is a global community with a mission to close the tech gender gap. We use content, marketing, and events to engage, inspire, and attract more diverse communities to the tech sector. We work with companies to promote and showcase themselves to our community in order to attract and retain a more diverse tech workforce. As you already know, the title of this 40-minute webinar is What is the Metaverse? Meta explains it all, and I have the wonderful Claire Mulhern, Creative Shop Director at Meta, joining me, who I will hand over to in a sec. But for now, to our viewers, please do take part in our Q&A session today. If you submit your questions, we will try and get to them at the end. But for now, I'm going to hand over to the wonderful Claire, who is going to share her insight about the Metaverse.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Kaylee, and good morning, everybody on the live stream. It's great to see you all. I can see all the attendees joining. Hi, Kira. Hi, Rita. Hi, Rosa. Hillary, I see you there. Daniela, Alexander, loads of incredibly powerful women that we have joining us here in terms of building the future of the metaverse together. So let me just check, Kaylee, to make sure that everybody can see my screen.
Yes, I can see your screen. Yes, apologies for the technical hiccup at the start, but I can see your screen.
Great. Well, super excited to be here with you today to talk to you about the power of the metaverse and how we're going to build the future of the metaverse together. And as I look to each of you, you are going to be incredibly future builders for this today and tomorrow and what potentially we can build. And we really need you. We need female talent who are going to infuse the metaverse with brilliant things that are going to light us up in terms of the things we can do. But first of all, what I'd love to do is introduce myself a little bit. I joined Meta 12 years ago, so I've been there quite a while. But my journey to Meta was not a straightforward one. You know, my journey into tech was not what I thought I would end up doing. I started my career in law school. I thought I was going to be a lawyer. And I decided when I left law school, I had one final step left to do, and that was to spend a year doing my internship and sit my bar exams. But I didn't know what law firm I wanted to work for, and I kind of wanted to get into one that was really exciting. So what I did was I joined a tech startup that only had 12 people in the organization, and the tech startup sold software into law firms. So I joined this tech startup, and I started working with all these law firms. And I realized probably 6 months in that there wasn't one law firm that I actually wanted to work in. But I did fall in love with tech startup, and I fell in love with the power of technology and building technology from ground up in terms of where we could go. So as you can hear from my accent, I'm Irish. I moved to California about 15 years ago. Prior, I worked in Vodafone, and then I was working in Viacom and out-of-home advertising. So this is picture like enormous billboards all over the cities. So it was bus shelters across London, it was in Dublin, it was billboards that we had. And I moved to the US, and I wasn't sure where I wanted to work, but I actually decided that Meta was the place that I wanted to go. Funnily enough, I actually only sent out one resume because I was so obsessed with joining this company. And I always say that one of the reasons I got hired by Meta is the day before I interviewed at Meta, they launched the iPad for the first time. And I actually went into my interviews with the iPad, and I showed everybody who was in my interview loop my resume on the iPad, and they'd never seen an iPad before. So they were like, wow, this is incredible. And I actually think it distracted them all so much that they ended up hiring me for what I was doing. So I always joke that the iPad was the thing that got me hired at Meta. But I came from out-of-home advertising. I was used to massive billboards. I pictured places like Times Square. And then I joined Meta. And at the time, what our ads product was this. It was this tiny little thing over the right-hand side. You probably don't even remember it. It did absolutely nothing. It had no sight. It had no sound. It had no motion. And what I actually thought was, I thought like this was a time that I needed to flee Meta and actually work out what else I needed to do. But I really believed in terms of the technology we're building, the engineering we were leaning into, and what potentially we could build as we work towards the metaverse. And it got really, really exciting. I was the person who launched the first ever Instagram advertising campaign in North America, which was really exciting. And I redesigned with our engineers really immersive, futuristic experiences that leaned into the metaverse. And I also built teams. I started from where I was a one-person team in many cases to building really robust teams together with our engineers and together with our product people in terms of where we're going. But it's really exciting where we're going with the metaverse. We're in the forefront of new realities where we need builders of different skill sets as we step into the metaverse in meaningful ways. It's interesting for me because I think as we think about the metaverse, a lot of people started with gaming. I'm not a gamer. So when I first started going into VR, I had very little interest. But as I look at the things that fuse my passions together, things like fashion, things like makeup, things like sport, entertainment, all of these things, the metaverse is starting to be built by people with diverse mindsets who are interested in different passions, who will build the future of what this will be next. So let's dive in a little bit and talk about what the metaverse is really all about. So technology has very much evolved over time. The metaverse, sorry, my slides are progressing too fast. They're a bit too eager. The metaverse is progressing over time. And what they're doing is, what we're looking at is we're actually looking at ways that the industries will change in terms of how we're building towards the metaverse. And this will be together with creators, with partners, with platforms, with devices, and with connectivity. And this is part of the whole system in terms of how the metaverse will be built. It's not just one singular thing. It's going to be all these elements that actually fuse together what the metaverse will be. And as we think about this, we believe that the metaverse will be all around us in everyday things we're doing. When you tune into apps or devices, you're connected to it and you're connected to others who tune in. And thus, so far with the internet, the way the internet has been consumed by us, it's been very much something that we've been looking at. We've been outside it. But we believe with the metaverse, what's going to happen is it's going to become an immersive experience where we actually become part of the experiences that are built within it. Most interactions, as we look at them on technology, they're flat, they're fixed. It's almost like they're brokered within a trapped screen. But our belief is that in the future, we'll start to believe like we're inside of it all, and the possibilities of what people dreamt for years around the internet is literally laid out at our feet, and will be powered by things like AR and VR headsets in terms of the accessibility within these spaces. And in the metaverse, you and each of us can be represented by the experience. An avatar is one way to think about how we can be part of the avatar, a virtual world we can live in that we call our home, shops that allow us to shop our virtual identities and those in the physical world. We can play games, we can watch movies with friends. It's so much more interesting when we watch a movie with somebody. And these are things that can happen in the metaverse. And then the exploration of distant fantasy worlds. I recently just built an immersive fragrance experience where what somebody could do is they could walk through a forest and they could smell the wood tones that go to the forest. From there, then in the metaverse, they went into a rain room and they could visualize how they smelt rain. And then they went into a floral meadow. And when people experience the metaverse within this immersive physical world, what they actually thought was happening is they thought I was misting scent at them from some areas. But what was happening within the worlds that I built was that people were actually seeing these things and they were feeling a sensorial way of thinking through how they could smell the fragrances, how they came to life within these different spaces. So if we think about the metaverse, you know, a lot of people, what they think about it, they think about the metaverse in terms of VR. And that's definitely where we're going in terms of the future and in terms of accessibility into the real prospect of the metaverse. But there's lots of things that actually incorporate the metaverse that are beyond VR. And a lot of you will have experienced them through things like AR. But the metaverse is a set of digitally interconnected experiences that can be accessed from any device, anywhere, or with anyone. And we believe that you will be able to exist in those experiences from many different devices and from different levels of differentiation, where maybe at one stage you're on your mobile phone, then you're on your desktop, then maybe you're immersing yourselves in a VR unit. You may be going into a store and experiencing something. You may be going to a concert and actually engaging with something that builds something beyond the physical experience. And not unlike what came before, the internet and desktop computers, the app store with mobile devices, are accessing the internet through AR, VR devices. And it's going to take some getting used to. You know, I always joke that eventually we're going to laugh so hard at the fact we were wearing these giant devices on our faces as we experience the VR for the first time. And the way, as we think about our identity, avatars are going to express and represent who we are in the metaverse, but our avatars are going to span multiple devices as well. So in the middle of the summer, we actually launched our avatar clothing store for the first time. People were able to buy clothing for their avatars. You know, people were buying Gucci outfits and Balenciaga, which was really cool. And then last week, we launched something really interesting, which was legs in the metaverse. So our avatars now for the first time have legs. I work predominantly in fashion. And it's really interesting for me because in the fashion industry, they were really struggling with the fact that we weren't able to do head to toe outfits. But together with our incredible engineers, we were actually able to build legs in the metaverse. And now our fashion advertisers are actually able to see how they build a cohesive look from head to toe in terms of how their avatars will come to life within the metaverse. So it's a really exciting space in terms of how things will happen. One thing I would say, though, is I don't think our fashion is that great. So I actually would love somebody to think through, as our engineers build for this, think through incredible outfits and outfitting of our avatars that are going to really look incredible and really embrace the digital identity of what we want to look like. So we'll make the time we spend online better and more meaningful as we connect together in the physical world, augmented and visual world through the metaverse. And we'll enable richer social connections and provide unique sense of presence, even when we're far away from home. So if you think about me, my family is 5,000 miles away. So for me to be able to attend a concert with my brother, like I would have in Dublin, is really challenging. And it's something we get to do maybe every few years. But as we think about the future of the metaverse, I'm actually going to be able to sit beside my brother and watch Billie Eilish play on stage. And we'll be able to look towards each other at either side and actually be present and experiencing the same thing at the same moment. And we'll be doing that from our own homes 5,000 miles away. And it's really close in terms of doing this. It is really interesting as you experience things like our Horizon Worlds and as we attend events together. It's really exciting in terms of where we go. Together with my team, we attended a comedy event one night. It was brilliant because I actually felt like my team from all around New York, Chicago, LA, Atlanta, they all felt like they were together with me as we were laughing so hard at the comedy we were experiencing within the metaverse. So as we think about the metaverse will help us feel more present in the world around us. So whether that's in the virtual world or the physical world, what we'll actually start to do is we'll start to experience this co-presence, which really starts to feel like we're here together. And we'll interact with content and games and work through our bodies and sensors, not just keyboards or touch screens. We'll actually start to move our bodies and actually see ways that it'll start to integrate in the metaverse. And we're seeing a little bit of the start of this today with controller-free experiences like the one in Oculus Quest 2, where things like games like this start to become an actuality. One thing that I love about the metaverse is one of the first times I experienced it with one of my coworkers. We went into a physical or a digital space together and we high-fived, and I had my headset on and I was sitting here. He was in New York in his headset. And when we high-fived, we both felt this sensation of a tingle in our hands. And we almost felt like we were actually touching each other's hands. And it was a really interesting time because at the time we were still going through lockdown. We weren't allowed to be physically in space with each other. So to be able to high five one of my closest coworkers and feel that tingle in my hand as if we were high fiving was pretty remarkable in terms of how we're doing this. As we think about the continuity of the metaverse, though, shopping experiences will be able to evolve really meaningfully. And they'll start to evolve, giving brands the opportunity to redefine storytelling and product merchandising, what this will mean. And, it's interesting because as we think about how how consumer behavior is very much trending from in-store to online, the online experience starts to feel a bit flat. Can't touch anything. We can't feel cloth move or motion. I think it's enhanced by things like, as we see, like some retailers, what they'll do is they'll do 360 video that allows us to see as the person rotates on ASOS, we can see how the clothing is moving. But we want more than that. What if merchandising was beyond what we could ever imagine? And we start to end up in these fantastical worlds that really become extremely special in terms of how we bring back the joy of shopping and the storytelling that will exist beyond that. And social presence will evolve as well. So professional presence will very much evolve in terms of how we spend time with each other. So imagine being able to work from anywhere with anyone, but still feeling like we're together. As the boundaries such as geographies and access fade away, you could have a dream job and live anywhere you like. When I joined Meta, I was in headquarters for 12 years. I then was in San Francisco, and I thought this is great because I had a shorter commute from my home. I went from where I was commuting every day down to Silicon Valley into San Francisco, where a very short commute into our office. But when lockdown came, I actually relocated up to wine country in Northern California. And as I join you here today, I'm not joining you from my apartment in San Francisco. I'm actually joining you surrounded by vineyards in beautiful sunny California, thankfully today. But this is the reality. And today in my job, as I work with my clients and as I work with my teams and as I work with our engineers, together with virtual reality, I'm joining engineers from all around the world. We see each other sitting around the table and we're going up to virtual whiteboards to actually whiteboard out ideas in the virtual space. And we're each doing that from our own homes and from where we are. So it's incredible to see how the future of this will be built. Sorry, my slide is pausing a little bit. So from our point of view, the metaverse will really enable remote experiences that really don't exist yet today. And we'll dedicate our energy to helping achieve its full potential. And when I talk about its full potential, this isn't even just the stuff that we're dreaming up. This is beyond what we can even dream. Working with a creative team, we keep on having to push the limits, because what we start to think about is we start to think about physical realities and we say, how do we recreate physical realities within the metaverse? But then we think about, how do we go even further? How do we think, like, instead of sitting in a meeting room around a table, how do we fly? How do we, instead of doing all these things that we think are physical, that we need to be in exact spaces, we think about, like, how do we do this from the moon? How do I do my next one-to-one with somebody from my team sitting in Hawaii on a beach and maybe looking up and seeing like a moon landing or something incredible in the sky? And that feeling is possible thanks to things like holograms and avatars and other things that will start to embody physical presence. We'll be able to communicate with all subtle cues you have in the physical world, like little hand gestures or eye contact or expression with others. And we're just getting started in terms of how that will be. And if you think about why this matters, like the behavior for people online, like when I joined Facebook, we were very much text focused. So what people used to do is, you'll remember people used to update their status. It used to say, what are you doing? And people would put in their status. It then launched into photos. And we started seeing way more photos on our platforms as we think about like the photo experience on Instagram, on Facebook, on WhatsApp, in terms of the power of photos. And then video became really immersive. We actually built our video product in a hack one night. And it was really exciting because we went from, in our hacks, what we did was in our headquarters, what we used to do is we used to do an overnight hack where engineers would get together and build products. And one of the most exciting ones I remember is they built our first video product in one night. And I remember being there at the beginning of the hack, which started at 6 p.m. And I remember being there at the end of the hack at 8 a.m. the next day, when we all got to play with our new video product. And that was the power of the engineers and the things that they were building in that short period of time in terms of where we were leaning into. And now we're going into a much more immersive world. And the immersive world is going to be incredible. It is so exciting. And we need more and more builders to think about how we start to build immersion. Within even Horizon Worlds, our builders are limited in terms of the number of people who know how to build for this world. So there's so many different places we can start to think about how code will fuse these immersive experiences as we lean into where this will be. And as we think about where we're evolving, we're very much evolving as a company too. You know, we went from where we were very much present with each other in rooms, we were present with our clients, to how we're now thinking about how we do things. Like this is the example in the middle here, you'll see like the virtual whiteboarding. When I do offsites with my teams, I stand up here in front of the team and behind them, they see the screen. And this is how literally we have our team meetings and how we have our interactions with each other. But we're also a little bit of a competitive bunch. We do Supernatural together. We do Beat Saber, where we get into the metaverse and we do things like workouts, where normally I'd be going to workouts with my coworkers in San Francisco. Now I can actually work out with them in the metaverse. And it's a really interesting experience in terms of how we can do this together and really continue to build these rich experiences in how this comes to life. As we think about Meta, we've built a really solid foundation of the new technologies. So communities is so important in terms of the communities that live on WhatsApp, on Instagram, on Facebook. We think about creators. Creators are becoming a powerful entity that can really stretch the future in terms of where we're going with things like AOR, with things like Horizon Worlds, with all of the content that's done across Reels. We think about commerce as well. So thinking through how we're launching new commerce products to make shopping much more interesting for people and much more immersive for people. And as we think about our role is to help accelerate the tools needed to bring the metaverse to life. So things like platform, creative tools and technologies. And what this is enabling is it's enabling coders like you to build on our platform and build really incredible experiences of what we can build in the future. And you'll see future investments in hardware and software that unlock potential and defy distance. And we can provide new opportunities about how people can express themselves and do things together. But it's not just an evolution of content and sharing. It's also the evolution of us as individuals, of storytellers, of commerce, of the things we need to build. You know, as I think about everybody listening here today, most of you will already have experienced some form of AOR. You'll have played with a filter. Most of you will have done some form of commerce within this world, where maybe you've interacted in different ways that went beyond a website. And then a lot of you will have already experienced some form of VR. And it's really interesting, the world we're living in right now. You know, very few of us have been in a self-driving car yet. And, you know, it's interesting, I see them zoom around Silicon Valley. I have yet to be in one. And I am salivating at the thought of me sitting in a self-driving car. But this is something that each and every one of us who are sitting here today will experience in our lifetime. Technology is evolving in a really, really rapid rate, which is going to make it so interesting in terms of where we're going. And around this technology, community is evolving. So, you know, things like Feed, things like Messenger, things like groups, all of these are becoming really interesting ways that we interact with people in meaningful ways. We're also doing things like AOR group calling that we can play with our friends, and we can have like a much more fun way of engaging with them through AOR and video calling. Creators as well is becoming extremely important in this space. And then community is evolving too. Like this is an example of Horizon Worlds, which was the Wendyverse, which was created. And this was a place where people could solve interactive puzzles. They could meet with each other, they could play. And it was a really interesting way of people getting together in the metaverse and playing together. Now, I got together with a lot of my team within the Wendyverse, but the most interesting story for me within the Wendyverse was a friend of mine from New York bumped into a friend of mine from San Francisco in the metaverse. They never knew each other. They had never met in real life. They didn't know they had me in common, but they were in the Wendy's metaverse and they started playing a game together. And conversation evolved and they started talking about Meta. And one of them mentioned, the person from New York mentioned, they said, I have a friend who works for Meta. It's Claire Mulhern. The other person from San Francisco says, no way, I know Claire Mulhern. She's a really good friend of mine. So as I was sitting at my desk, next thing my messenger pinged. And here I have a selfie of the two of their avatars with each other in the Wendyverse that they sent to me. So they ended up talking for about 30 minutes. They hit it off. Apparently we're all getting together and meeting up. But it absolutely blew my mind. The two people from my life who never knew each other at all bumped into each other in the metaverse and became friends. So we're now going to get together at some stage as we think about this. Storytelling is evolving too, so evolving where we're going. So, as we're thinking about the way we communicate on digital platforms, us as individuals tell much more richer stories than we used to. We used to do a short photo and post it as our status, or we'd send a quick photo to our friends on WhatsApp. But now what we're doing is we're actually doing much more richer experiences, and we're playing with ways to bring storytelling to life in different ways.
We gaan vandaag een NFT openen. En nee, deze kan je niet screenshotten.
And I'm not sure why that guy has sound, but he's now joined our world to show how sound is really important within this as well. And you'll see this as well on Reels. A lot of my friends, a lot of the community are now actually talking over Reels as well and communicating in different ways. It's funny for me because as I talked in Reels for the first time, some of the people who followed me said I never knew you had an Irish accent because I never spoke before. I used to do text overlays, and now as people see me speak, they're like, oh, you're Irish, never realized, never knew that. Commerce is also evolving in terms of where we're going. So things like shops and live shopping is becoming really interesting. And then things like AR commerce. So doing things like trying products on or playing with products or looking at objects in rooms is becoming really interesting. Digital collectibles is continuing to build steam. And then our avatar stores in terms of how we can build the future is becoming really exciting in terms of potentially how our outfitting will continue to evolve to make us much more fashion forward in terms of the things we can wear. And it's a really vibrant future ahead. It is so exciting. And I think for me, as I went from that tiny little ad on the desktop experience that I had when I was first at Meta, to really thinking through the future of where we'll be able to build, it is so exciting in terms of things we can build. And we're getting there through things like reality labs, responsible innovation, software and content, creators and developers, and partnerships. And this is, again, where you come in. The metaverse is going to be built by everybody, by us all. As we think about where we are now, we're primarily 2D apps. So we're thinking about this from commerce, communication, community, NFTs, experiences in WebXR, and experiences in augmented reality. Really, really near. And when I'm saying near is these are still things that are starting to happen right now, is we're building much more immersive virtual 3D experiences. We can build capabilities through creators. We can build experiences in VR, and we can build virtual identity via avatars. And next, what we're beginning to do is we're beginning to imagine what the metaverse could mean from your business. So thinking through social events in the Horizon Worlds and VR for business in terms of how we can do things like training and development and virtual working in more meaningful ways. One thing that I would suggest to any of you, if any of you has a Meta Quest device, there's a brilliant building experiences within Horizon Worlds where actually you can build the future of where things go. I work with a lot of creators and engineers within that space, and it's actually a really seamless way to blend your creativity and your code to really build meaningful experiences. And everybody can start to build in that space right now. So if any of you do ever build a world, or if you've built a world already, let me know, because I want to visit you there. I want to come in and see the incredible things that you're dreaming up in your mind and the power that you have through the technology you have in terms of the things you can build. And how we're going to get there together is we're going to build the muscle. Our platform and technologies can help build the muscle necessary to operate in the future ecosystem that's being built around us now. We're going to experiment. We're going to explore with meta products such as Meta Sparks and Horizon Worlds to understand how we can add value to the current and future marketing plans. And then we're going to connect with partners. So we're going to connect with the right partners who can build the metaverse together and build together now. So my ask to each of you, each of your talented, brilliant minds who can think about code in meaningful ways, is start to think about how we can build. We need you as builders. We need diverse builders within our space who are going to reimagine experiences for us and think about meaningful ways that we can start to build towards the metaverse together. And I'm so excited to think about the future of what She Can Code will bring in terms of fusing the incredible talent that's on this call together with the things we can build. And I hope you're really excited in terms of the future of where code can go and how it can continue to fuel the metaverse.
Thank you so much, Claire. That was really interesting. I can see lots and lots of questions coming in, and actually a lot of people were thinking what I'm thinking. There was a question that I wanted to ask you as well. So much of the technology needed to build the metaverse, it doesn't exist yet. So for those listening in who are busy typing away there about careers, how can they ready themselves with the necessary skills for a future in the, a metaverse related job?
Yeah, it's really interesting, because I think the reality as I think about the metaverse is the sheer potential of the metaverse is probably 3 to 5 years out. So, we have a little bit of time. So what we need to do is, first of all, we need to keep most up to date in terms of new technologies that are happening and keep our finger on the pulse in terms of where things are going. I think a lot of this is going to be around the future of what people, like the people on this call, will start to imagine in terms of the things that can build. Because I think some people, like from our creative side, let's say, I don't know the capabilities of code and what can be built. So fusing together the latest in terms of how you think about being most up to date in terms of code will enable you to continue to push in these areas. Things that I'm saying to you, like, getting a Quest device and actually playing with the build mode there and thinking through fusing code, that is going to be a huge area in terms of building. And it's an area where we don't have enough builders. And we're seeing really interesting builders immerse into this space. So, one of the creators we work with, a person called Flutter, they came from a code background, but they were really interested in meditation. And they said that in their mind, what they did was they actually said that they were really interested in meditation. They felt they were really creative and they felt they were really good at code. So they fused all of those together, and they actually built meditation experiences within Horizon Worlds through leveraging how you actually build for that world. They also actually built a target pride experience for us, where they were able to express their true identity within the metaverse, within that space. But as I spoke to Flutter, one of the things Flutter thinks is, they say that ultimately it's being able to be a really good coder as well, which is really important. And that was something that fueled there. So, my advice to each of this team here is be hungry, be up to date, like lean in, get really excited about this, get messy, and embrace the fact that everything that you're going to build in the future isn't mapped out in this really clear linear way. Same way when I joined Meta and it was this tiny little thing, I knew eventually we'd build something bigger, but I had no idea what it was. I didn't have a career path. When people at Meta say to me, they say, like, what are you going to do in 5 years' time? I consistently tell everybody that the job I'm going to do in 5 years' time does not exist. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to build for the now, and I'm going to dream for the future. And those dreams for the future will enable code to actually catch up to where we're going and where we need to build for the future. So be dreamers, be brilliant at what you currently do, and really lean into anything that's new and immersive and that lights you up and gets you excited in terms of where you can go.
Yeah, that's wonderful advice. And I'm wondering as well about timelines. You know, are we looking at sort of 18 to 24 months, or is this going to be a process over the next 5 to 10 years? When do you see it?
You know, again, really interesting question. The process isn't quite linear. So I'll give you a classic example of this. We launched Horizon Worlds, I want to say back in, it was probably February we launched it. And, you know, I experienced it for the first time. It was really exciting. At Creative Shop, I was thinking like, we might build a world. And I was thinking maybe we build it in 12 months time. And I'm going to learn about this and I'm going to experience all these different things. 6 weeks later, we had our first world built. When Wendy's Metaverse launched, I thought brands were about 6 months out in terms of what Wendy's did. And Wendy's accelerated things in about a month in terms of being able to do what I genuinely didn't believe brands would be able to do yet. So things rapidly accelerate. And I think what we need to think about as we build is the future of where we build is really about the people building. You know, if we're having people create worlds, you know, so many worlds now, but as more people get more sophisticated with this, the worlds get more sophisticated. And the technology will continue to, you know, the hardware and technology will continue to accelerate. But there's so much we can build for now that I don't think it's about waiting for the metaverse. I think it's about building what are the things we can build in the metaverse now. Another great thing for anybody in this call to play with is the Spark AR effects. So already what we can start to do is we can start to build metaverse AR filters and start to really play with that. And again, that's something that, you know, we need that engineering mindset in terms of that. So as people are saying, like, when can I build for the metaverse? Go on to Spark AR like this afternoon, build something amazing. You can do it now, and then you can continue to build as we accelerate towards the future.
Wonderful. Yeah, I can see lots of other questions coming in. There are so many people wanting to ask you questions, Claire. I'm afraid we are out of time, so we can follow up with you with these questions. So when we post the recording along with a summary on shecanco.io, we can have a couple more answers to those questions, because people are dying to ask you certain things, especially about a career in this area. So thank you so much for joining us. So it was so interesting, and we're so excited that you joined us. So thank you very much.
Fantastic. And She Can Code is really important in terms of this. Like this, you are going to be fundamental in terms of things we could build together. And I hope one day some of us, like you, Rita, or Remy, or Pundit, we actually get together and build something together. So keep leaning forward, keep leaning into technology. We need you here. So really excited about seeing what you're all going to build in the future.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Claire. I will speak to you very soon. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Thank you.